Are you a registered dietitian who feels super burnt out, who feels like they're always going, 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 who feels like in spite of all their efforts, work, they feel drained and there's not enough money in your business account? If this sounds like you, then you definitely want to stay tuned to this episode today. Today, we're talking about one of my favorite topics, which really is time, but more so, what are dietitians doing in their practices that are really derailing them in not getting the outcomes they want? For those of you guys don't know me, I am Amy Plano. I'm the reimbursement dietitian, and I help dietitians get credentialed, build the shit out of insurance, and make the money they deserve. And one of the things I see after working with thousands of dietitians is that a lot of you guys are wasting hundreds of hours optimizing for things in your business that should not exist. And today I want to call out the top ones that I see you guys optimizing for. When reality is a lot of these ones you can just kind of get rid of. And so the biggest energy leaks that you guys obsess about, like I said, they really should not exist in your practice. And so the first one, and this is a question I get a ton on discovery calls, is perfecting a website before you have demand. I am a huge proponent of having a website, but I feel it is a down ladder kind of progression once you've got all your other shit together. A lot of you guys don't want to launch your insurance-based practices because you're obsessing about the logos, the fonts, the colors, your vibe. Meanwhile, no one is booking, right? We have a front end marketing issue. We don't have a website issue. So as long as your website clearly says who you help, how you help them, and how they can work with you and pay, that's all you need. Anything above that, anything beyond consistent leads, I'm going to say this out loud, you're just procrastinating, right? You're busy, but this is not something that is either going to make you more money in the short term, which you need. It is not going to give you back more time. It's going to suck your time, and it's not going to give you back more energy. So perfecting a website before you have demand, it's just something that a lot of you guys are optimizing for, taking up a ton of bandwidth, and is not super important. The other one that I see a lot of, and I see this even on the employee side, is optimizing for certificates, licensure in other states. I see the question a lot like, what state should I get licensed in? And like my response is, Karen, get licensed in the states where you fucking have patients, right? I do not understand this concept of that dietitians wanting to be so location independent. As somebody who's been more or less a brick and mortar since 2008, the reality is that for most of us, unless you live in a super rural, remote area, there is enough patients in a 10-mile radius of your office to see. So unless you are a border state, like maybe you're in Massachusetts and you're close to New Hampshire and maybe Vermont, or like you're in Alabama, right? And you might be close to Georgia or Tennessee, right? That might make sense in terms of getting a license in another state. But the goal I often ask you guys is what is the goal of getting a license in another state? What is the goal of getting your certification in obesity management, right? Because a certification program generally does not mean anything to anyone, and it does not give you back more time. It does generally not give you more money because people don't know what the fuck it is. And it certainly does not, give you more bandwidth, right? So obsessing about certifications, licenses in other states, to me, that is a big waste of your time. And it is taking you away from what you really should be doing, which is growing your empire. The other thing that I see a lot of you guys doing, and I understand, is this obsessing about not starting your insurance-based practice until you're completely ready, right? You want your documentation to be perfect. You're so afraid you're going to mess something up. You want perfect claims, perfect documentation. You don't want to have any denials. And so instead of doing the shit that you need to do, which is to learn insurance by billing, you instead kind of study it in isolation and you tell yourself you're going to start when you're ready, right? But the reality is that insurance is inherently imperfect, right? Optimizing for good enough plus scalable beats trying to eliminate all friction at any point because I want to be crystal clear. The goal in an insurance-based practice is not zero denials. There is 100% chance that you will get a denial probably pretty quickly in the beginning of your career. The goal, though, is predictable cash flow, right? So when we are trying to look at these aspects of our businesses that we are optimizing for, we have to continually ask ourselves, is me spending all of this time, effort, and money on this particular thing worth it? Right. And in most of these scenarios that we're talking about, taking action and doing the thing trumps anything else. Right. So the last one that I want to talk about is really social media aesthetics over sales systems. A lot of you guys don't love social media, which is totally okay. But for the ones that do, you obsess over Canva templates, reel covers, brand consistencies. Meanwhile, I look at your products and I look at your social media. There's no clear call to action. There's no follow-up system. There's no way to convert interest leads into consults. So pretty content, which I love. You guys know I love pretty content without a clear sales path basically equals free labor for Meta, right? So, I really want you guys to sit down and think about the stuff in your business that you are optimizing, right? And when I say optimizing, one of the things you guys, I'm just going to kind of place it in our words as dietitians is this thing perfect? Or I'm going to work on this thing until it's perfect. And the question instead that I want to ask you, instead of asking yourself, is my website perfect? Is my practice setup perfect? Do I have the perfect licenses and certifications? Instead, I want you to ask this one simple question. Does this make me more money, save me more time, or energy, right? Is it pushing me in the right direction? If the answer is no, right, the work that you're doing probably does not need to exist. It doesn't mean that down the road it might not need to exist, but dietitians are wasting hundreds of hours optimizing for things that should not exist. And so if you feel busy all the time, which a lot of us do, that does not mean we're being productive, right? And so I don't make this video to call you out. I just want you to sometimes self-assess where you are putting your time because dietitians obsess over things, but the reality is they do not invest in time. And often they are just procrastination, kind of designed in a different way. So if you're a dietitian who constantly feels underpaid, who feels like you're optimizing the wrong stuff, right? Because you can work really, really hard towards a goal, but if the goal does not, consistently move your business forward, then we probably would want to reconsider. And just to be very clear, this is something that is super top of mind for me. Okay. I am not immune to any of the challenges. If not, I am in the challenges that I talk about in these YouTube videos, right? There's lots of things in my business right now that I spend a shit ton of time doing that I should not even fucking exist, right? And so that's why in 2026, like I'm having real honest conversations with myself. And I just want you to be doing the same, right? Because there is nothing worse. Like that is really that is what burnout really is like working a shit ton on things that don't matter, right? And so I want you to make a list of the things in your business, right? And they're probably really easy because you can look at your calendar. You're probably spending a shit ton of time on stuff you should not even be doing in your business. So if this sounds like you, I have a tiered out membership that supports dietitians in all avenues of your business. But If you're somebody who's struggling with systems, we're going to put the link below. So if you need support, you can get it directly from me, right? Because at the end of the day, we all need a little push, and your ability to invest in yourself and believe in yourself is going to be ultimately what changes the game in general. So hopefully you guys like this video. If you know a dietitian who is busy but not productive and making money, I would love it if you could share this video with them, because I think it's like some really hard, uncomfortable truths that we all need to hear, including your girl, Amy P.